as you guys are probably well aware, I'm not a Nintendo YouTuber, but what I am is a Sega YouTuber. I love Sega, whether we're talking about the Sega Genesis, the Sega 32X, which I wrote a freaking book on it. Check it out if you haven't yet. Link is in the description box down below. The Sega Saturn, the Sega Dreamcast, the Sega Master System, the Sega Game Gear minus the batteries, the Sega arcade game. Sega's great. Sega is great. And of course, Tokyo Game Show is happening right now at the time of the filming of this video, and things have been pretty quiet. We got to look at a new Sega game, a new Yakuza game that's coming out, but beyond that, there hasn't been anything too excited. But this picture coming out of Tokyo Game Show, it's kind of, my Sega sensors are going off with this. I'm like, what is this? What in God's name is this? Because when you look at what's going on here, there's something very clearly happening here. We have a portable HD monitor that looks a lot like a portable HD monitor that I have, playing Darius 2, released in 1996, which is a Sega Saturn game. We have an HDMI cable that is running to this device here, which we'll talk about in just a second. So this is an HDMI capable thing. Below this, we have a copy of Castlevania Symphony of the Night, or Dracula X, for the Sega Saturn, which had some additional content in it, but it also had some additional problems with things like frame rate, which is really weird because this is a 2D game, and 2D games traditionally ran better on the Saturn than the PlayStation 1, but I digress. It is what it is. And then we have this. Now, I don't know about you, but to me, this is a small Sega Saturn, a Sega Saturn Mini, if you would, that is being shown off at Tokyo Game Show. What the hell is this? What the hell is this? Because when you look at this system, obviously it has HDMI output, but there's no disk drive here. Okay, you're not popping this open and putting in a disc because of the size of it when you compare it to the jewel case that we have over here for our copy of Castlevania Symphony of the Night. So this has to be running some sort of software emulation or hardware emulation or something like that. So what is this? Who is Tassie? Who is Tassi? Well, we figured all of this out. So over on Time Extension, which I will have a link to in the description box down below, Damian McFerrin, who I don't think he likes me. I know he works for Nintendo Life. I'm pretty sure he doesn't like me, but I could be wrong on that. So if you like me, Damian, hi, Damian. If you don't like me, I mean, whatever, it doesn't really matter. Sega Saturn Mini could become a reality thanks to Retron FPGA. Now, if you know anything about Retron, it's not really Retron, it's Hyperkin that owns Retron. And Hyperkin has been releasing products like since the dawn of the retro gaming resurgence. I have reviewed a ton of Hyperkin products on this channel before in the past, whether it's systems, controllers, this, that, or the other. Some of the products are pretty good. Some of the products aren't pretty good, but all of the products have the same sort of thing going into it. None of them are FPGA based. They're all emulation based. Now, I'm not going to sit here and act like I know what the big difference between these two is. I've had it explained to me a million times before, but I can honestly say I don't really care. At the end of the day, FPGA is preferred over just standard emulation because it's more accurate. It's more true to the source stuff from the original hardware. It's more mimicking the original hardware than just basic software emulation. So you get a more accurate experience when it comes to the games themselves, which I guess is a good thing. You know, I like to mess around with just standard emulation and stuff like that, upscaling crap and whatnot, but I can appreciate FPGA because, like I said, it's a more accurate solution. Now, obviously, I'm more into the PC emulation side of things, but I know that things like Mister are out there, and people absolutely love Mister, the sequel to Sister Sister. So let's go ahead and read this. Japanese hardware firm Tassi Denki has been showing off some exciting retro-themed hardware at this year's Tokyo Game Show, including what appears to be a Sega Saturn Mini that uses FPGA technology rather than the traditional software-based emulation. The unit at the show, which of course is entirely unofficial and not endorsed by Sega, was shown running Taito's Darius 2. I find it interesting that they were able to like get something to where they could display something at a Tokyo Game Show. I'm sure that costs quite a bit of yen, which of course is a traditional Japanese currency, but I'm sure that it's like not cheap to get a booth there. I don't know, maybe it is, and maybe I should set up a Tokyo Game Show and be like, hello, is I, RGT. How you doing? According to GameWatch, the tech powering this mini Saturn will be a part of Hyperkin's Retron FPGA platform, which uses field programmable gate array chips to produce more accurate emulation. The Retron FPGA was also shown running NES games from a special cartridge converter. FPGA chips are, blah, blah, blah. We already talked about that. But when you look at this tweet here, like, this is where things get really weird, because it looks like they're making a module for like retro emulation that I'm assuming is going to be using like here's the thing that worries me about this is that Hyperkin isn't necessarily known for like doing things by the book. So I wouldn't be fully surprised if this is just a mister inside of here and like no work was done by them whatsoever to make this like, an actual, it's not like it's their FPGA system. It's an FPGA system that already exists. And I don't even think they're like tweaking stuff like that or anything like that. And then you have this device here that is connected to it. You can see there's multiple controller ports on here. Looks like we have Genesis, we have NES ports, Super Nintendo. USB, is that a power button or is that a potential TurboGrafx or PC Engine controller? I don't know. It might just be a power button because of where this is. But like, I just feel like this is probably like not being done by the books. And when you think about Hyperkin and you think about all the products they have, like they've had several products before that never came to fruition. They had a Game Boy that they shown off that looked really cool. I want to say that was shown off in like 2018 or something like that. That never came to fruition. They were supposed to be working on an N64. Funny story. A lot of people ask how I got connected with Celia, who of course now works at Yacht Club Games. She's been on the Spawncast a couple different times. People were wondering like how we became friends and stuff like that. And I'll tell you guys the absolute truth. No, I wasn't hitting on her. I slid into her DMs because at that time she worked at Hyperkin and she was ahead of like, what she does now at Yacht Club, like doing like promotions and stuff like that, marketing for the company. So I was like, hey, what's up with this N64? I find it really interesting that it's going to have HDMI out. Like, is this going to be upscaled like an ultra HDMI? Like, how is all this working? I want to get some more information on it, and I want to get a product whenever you guys have one to potentially review. And she was like, yeah, I'll keep in touch with you about it. And we just became friends off of that. So, that's how I met her, was because she was working at Hyperkin, and I was genuinely interested in finding out, like, what this was and getting my hands on it. So going back to the article at question here, basically they say FPGA chips are in other systems like the analog systems and Mister and stuff. A representative from Tasei Denki, which we assume will act as Hyperkin's distributor in Japan, told Game Watch that the company hopes to put the Retron FPGA system into commercial production by the end of 2024 or in 2025. Support will focus on 8-bit systems to begin with, but the Saturn demonstrations suggest that we'll be seeing 32-bit versions in the fullness of time too. And that's basically what it is. This is a newer company that set up at Tokyo Game Show that looks to be working with Hyperkin but like, here's my thing. Okay. Like, let's say this is FPGA based and let's say that's what the situation is. What's the point of this? Like, is the FPGA inside of this? Do I need this module in order to play it? Because like, it looks like these might be controller ports for Sega Saturn. And then this is like, I don't even know what this is. Is this the HDMI cable? Because that doesn't really make sense. I would think that whatever cable this is, but that's the power cable. So this is the HDMI cable. So it's like, is this just for show or is this a product that will be available for it? And I can't help but go back and think of all the things that Hyperkin has said they were going to do and then never freaking did. And like, that worries me, because when was the last like Hyperkin product that we've gotten? I remember the last one I reviewed was their Atari clone system, and it did not work well for me. But I like things like the Superboy, which I believe is a Hyperkin product. I liked that product. I thought that was a cool product. Some of their controllers are really good. But there's a Sega Saturn Mini thing kind of happening, and Sega isn't even the freaking company that's doing it. Like, I wonder if like Sega like walked by this and was like, what the fuck is this? Like, what are you doing? This is our game. This is our jewel disc. This is our platform. This is our system in it. But I do find it interesting that supposedly it's supposed to be this hard thing to get Sega Saturn emulation down, but it's able to at the very least run 2D Saturn games, which of course is easier than 3D Saturn games, but Saturn emulation has come a long way. I would be interested in something like this though, even though my Saturn collection is down to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, not even, well, 6 games, but like it's technically 8, but like 2 of them are duplicates. It's a 3-pack with Virtua Fighter 2, Daytona USA, and Virtual Cop, but I have Daytona USA and I have Virtua Fighter 2 separate as well, so just shut up. But like, I would be interested in checking this out, but obviously I'm not going to use my discs because I don't see where a disc would go into this. Like, I don't know. I don't understand this. But there's a tiny Sega Saturn on display at Tokyo Game Show, and I think that's cool. I'll be keeping my eye on this project. Hopefully, Tasai can, like, you know, put the hammer down on Hyperkin and be like, hey, do something. Make a product that people can enjoy or potentially enjoy, because you don't really do much of anything. But let me know in the comments section down below what we're thinking about this. How do you wrapping your head around this? How do you see this playing out? Do you think it's vaporware like a lot of Hyperkin products are? Because that wouldn't surprise me either. You know, in the same breath, that would not surprise me if nothing ever happens with this. But it's like, what the hell's the point? Like, what's the point of showing up at these shows with products like the Game Boy thing, like the N64 thing? I think there was a TurboGrafx thing as well. Like, why would you take money, show up at these shows, and then never do anything with the product? Like, that you would make more money. You're not making money doing this. You're wasting money showing up at these shows, unless this is some tax scheme that you're doing, which wouldn't really surprise me, knowing how Hyperkin. No, I'm just kidding. But like, it just makes no sense to me. So let me know what you think of this in the comment section down below. And as always, guys, thank you for checking out this video. If you're new to the channel, be sure to hit that subscribe button, like, comment, and share. Hit the bell as well. And as always, I'll catch you guys on the next video. Later.